This is VSiN, the sports betting network. This is Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Bombshell news in the NBA this morning. Victor Wembanyama dropped 40 points. No.
Yeah.
Some other things going on, JVT, yeah?
Yes, I'm actually a little disappointed. Welcome in, everybody. Very excited to be here. I was excited to come in and talk some hoops. Yesterday was incredible. I mean, I don't know about you, but my eyes, I was like a kid in a candy store. I don't really love the new format for League Pass on Amazon, so we can talk about that a little bit later. But just going from game to game, putting them on different screens, the sound, watching different things, I really couldn't focus on a ton. But it was a good night of basketball. It was good to have it back in a full slate, and I was really looking forward to it this morning. And then we get the notification that, oh, by the way, the Department of Justice is going to have a press conference and it involves Terry Rozier. You're like, oh, boy, all right. Yes. Let's watch this bad boy then, huh?
Throughout the rundown, instead of talking about things on the court, we're going to go off the court this morning. As we do welcome you into this Thursday edition of Money Moves, Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel, we're going to be with you for the next 2 hours. But let's just jump right into this thing. In separate but related gambling investigations this morning, the FBI led a takedown that resulted in 34 arrests across 11 different states, including, as you likely have heard, Miami guard Terry Rozier and Trailblazers head coach and Hall of Fame player Chauncey Billups. Rozier, one of 6 individuals who's being indicted for his involvement in a sports betting conspiracy where he either acted on or provided confidential information about NBA players and teams. Billups, meanwhile, arrested for his role in a long-running illegal poker operation that is connected to the mafia, rigging high-stakes games across the country. In a statement from the NBA, they said, "We are in the process of reviewing the federal indictments announced today. Terry Rozier and Chauncey Billups are being placed on immediate leave from their teams, and we will continue to cooperate with the relevant authorities. We take these allegations with the utmost seriousness, and the integrity of our game remains our top priority." Wow.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to go from. We're going to hear from the press conference in terms of the details exactly what's going on here. But at the end of the day, we were still kind of waiting to see if the shoe was going to drop with Terry Rozier. I know that it seemed that the NBA had maybe closed the door potentially on their own investigation of Rozier, but this had continued to be ongoing. I mean, we didn't hear his name today, but we, outside of his agent, never really heard a conclusion what was happening with Malik Beasley in this whole thing when during free agency or right at the start of it, he was named and implicated in something like this. So I don't think it's a surprise. We were waiting to see what was going to happen with Rozier. He was a healthy scratch yesterday, so maybe there was an indication that this was coming down for Miami. But either way, we're starting to finally see at least some tangible results of what we had kind of seen coming down the pipe for a while. Jonte Porter now tied in, Rozier tied in. Billups seems to be somewhat distanced from the sports aspect of it, but there is a connecting factor in Damon Jones, of course, being involved in both of these things. So this is kind of what we were waiting for, and now we finally get some details on what's going to happen.
And that's why we say separate but related, and we heard that from the press conference this morning as well, when you hear Kash Patel on the stand, on the podium rather, that 6 defendants are accused of being involved in the sports betting case, 31 involved in the rigged poker games, but Damon Jones, who you mentioned, one of 3 individuals who are allegedly involved in both cases. He was an unofficial assistant coach for the Lakers in 2022 and 23 when he was involved in the sports betting scheme by providing information about apparently LeBron James, that he was going to miss a game on that day. So we'll get into the layers of that in a moment, but let's hear from some of the sound that we did hear in that briefing earlier this morning. U.S. Attorney Joseph Nocella on how Rozier and other members of the sports betting scheme acted and shared information.
Between December 2022 and March 2024, these defendants perpetrated a scheme to defraud by betting on inside, non-public information about NBA athletes and teams. The non-public information included when specific players would be sitting out future games, or when they would pull themselves out early for purported injuries or illnesses. They relied on corrupt individuals, including Jones and Rozier. They also misused information obtained through long-standing friendships that they had with NBA players and coaches. And in at least one instance, they got their information by threatening a current player, Porter, because of his pre-existing gambling debts.
So I think that's the one of the parts that is somewhat important when you hear that is because you mentioned the report that came out, The Athletic, shortly after this, obviously tied into the New York Times about LeBron James, and there was that immediate name that was thrown out there. I thought it was like, man, we're just trying to get this SEO. But it sounds like Damon Jones was alleged, as you mentioned, to have on a 2023 game involving the Bucks and a couple of others, let people know when LeBron was not going to play in those games. Now, again, I know a lot of people, especially on social media, would like to tie LeBron directly to this. But as it's stated right there by Nocella, it's one of those things where it's like, hey, I find out that you're not going to be here today. So on the side, I text somebody else and say, oh, by the way, Stormy told me she's not going to be here. So there's no involvement, it would seem at this point right now, in terms of LeBron James. I would assume that he would have been named potentially if that was going to be the case, given the information they have. But again, you don't want to assume anything. But I think that's somewhat important because there are some running with the premise, oh, I hear these team names. They're all involved. That's not how this is working. Those were games involving those teams that were wagered on by this group, but that does not mean that the Hornets, the Lakers, and others were actually involved in fixing the results.
And those conversations do happen in every locker room across the league, and I think that's why you're drawing so much attention to this, is that there are individuals here that are taking that common information amongst their group that's supposed to be private and giving it to individuals who are then going to place bets on this and do illegal things. And so that's the delineation. The last note there, though, of Jonte Porter being threatened, I think is going a little too under the radar here. Porter, of course, who is playing for the Toronto Raptors, was a lower level player who has been banned from the NBA for his role in doing exactly what Rozier is here accused of coming out of a game and people betting his unders. That was in 2023-24. He, by the way, is awaiting sentencing in December for his role in all of this. But like that, Rozier and his group was that's not just sharing information anymore. That's a whole different thing, is you're trying to force somebody to do it.
Exactly. And it's tied to his gambling debt. So clearly he did have some sort of a gambling problem that then tied into this. And, you know, it is interesting because you still hear Nocella refer to him as, you know, I'll paraphrase. I think he called him a shady individual, whatever it was. So he is still implicating Porter in a sense of being willing to do this as well as being threatened to do it. So I do wonder if that's not going to be like, I think maybe some people flew to that a little bit. It was like, oh, see, he was being threatened.
So he's innocent and he was being threatened. Yeah,
don't know if that's true.
I think it is an onion, and there are going to be a lot of layers that we're going to uncover throughout this thing. Here is another layer to this from New York City Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch on what transpired after that 2023 incident that flagged the sportsbooks on Rozier.
One example occurred on March 23rd, 2023 in Charlotte. Terry Rozier, an NBA player now with the Miami Heat, but at the time playing for the Hornets, allegedly let others close to him know that he planned to leave the game early with a supposed injury. Using that information, members of the group placed more than $200,000 in wagers on his under statistics. Rozier exited the game after just 9 minutes, and those bets paid out, generating tens of thousands of dollars in profit. The proceeds were later delivered to his home, where the group counted their cash.
I texted you immediately because we watched this live, mind you, and listened to every word that all of the folks that have been involved in uncovering this investigation had to say. And I texted you immediately after that. This is like a movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I do wonder. I mean, I wonder if they actually have that or if they're just assuming they were counting their cash. But either way, and this is, I think there's an interesting aspect of this, and it was brought up by Gil Alexander on a numbers game earlier today as well, which is the ability to get that much money down on these props. If that number is accurate, what, $200,000, I think is what she said. I mean, there's only, if I remember correctly, only 6 defendants named in the sports gambling aspect of this, as we just heard. To only have 6 individuals and the ability between those 6 to get that much money down on player props, I would assume, and we heard at the end of this that the investigation is still ongoing, there has to be some more people involved. Only because I would think it is unrealistic that between 6 people you were able to get that much down on player props on these books. Now, they did not want to name the actual sports books in which these were wagered at, so that's going to be something worth noting. Probably the national books.
And evidently the sports books are going to be listed as victims in this case as well, so that's important delineation, I think, as well to add. Yep.
So that is the interesting aspect of it is, you know, what more is coming, who others are involved. It doesn't even necessarily need to be big names, but the ability to get that much down on it. But it does speak to, too, as well, and we can get to the other, I think there's a lot of ramifications and conversations and questions to be had, but I think a lot of people want to immediately get to, well, we got to get rid of it all. You've seen it all already. Mm-hmm. It was caught because it was wagered on a regulated book. That should not be forgotten. There's a reason why this thing was able to get snagged.
Yeah, every time the guardrails work, I think it's a good reminder that we do have guardrails and that they're put in place for a reason. That's why so much of this is becoming unveiled, is that there was suspicious activity flagged from the sports books that then created this ripple effect. But as you know, the court of law and court of public opinion are very different things. And people that either aren't in the sports betting community or have, I think, a pretty clear awareness of that piece of it, and what we all do here as well, is that this is the integrity of the NBA, and it's rigged and it's corrupt and it's all bad. And that's what the whole thing is that that's what the whole league is, and that this might be all that's coming out right now, but inevitably there's going to be so much more and we're going to find out it's all been rigged. I don't think that's true.
No, I don't think so at all. I mean, we're starting to hear some more, like, people are trying to bring stuff up and, past results and things like that. That is not the case. These are clearly a smallish group of bad actors trying to get this done. And again, the other NBA name outside of Jones, of course, Chauncey Billups, as we'll hear in a little bit, was not part, as so far as we know, of the sports fixing. It was more about his role was entirely about these poker games that we're hearing about as well during this entire thing. So I'm with you. I think a lot of people want to rush to get this away, get this out of here. This all rings a little bit different, especially after yesterday. We played the clip of Adam Silver on the Pat McAfee show talking about the need for regulation. And that's another question I think we should ask as well, is what impact this could have on the push for federal regulation for sports gambling too.
So we'll address that layer of the conversation next. We'll also play some of the sound that is regarding these poker games, because if you haven't seen some of the details coming out about this, I mentioned it's movie-like. That's how this feels completely. So stay with us here. Yes, don't worry. We're going to cover Thursday Night Football. We're going to cover the NBA doubleheader that is on the court tonight and so much more. But this is the news of the day in sports and sports betting, and there's a lot to delve into. We'll be right back.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Hoops is around the corner, tipping off November 3rd, and now's the time to get your copy of our annual betting guide. This year's guide includes our guy Matt Euman's top 50 rankings, all 31 conferences previewed, Wooden Award candidates, futures, and season-long prop bets, plus betting nuggets on every major conference team from Greg Hoops Peterson. The only way, though, to get the guide is by being a VSiN Pro subscriber. Sign up now for just $120. You get VSiN Pro access to everything we do until May 1st. That's all college hoops season, all long, March Madness, and beyond for less than $20 a month. Sign up today at vsin.com/subscribe. You get the guide. You get all of our content, all of the best bets, vsin.com/subscribe. Stormy Buonantony and Jonathan Von Tobel back with you here live from downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino, discussing the news of the day. Also on the hardwood in the NBA, the gambling investigations underway. We mentioned the FBI probe and mass arrests that came out this morning, including Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier and Trailblazers head coach and Hall of Fame player Chauncey Billups. And FanDuel actually just moments ago released a statement of their own.
Yeah, this is, this is courtesy of R. Linehan, who is a regulatory writer, Sport Radar. According to him, statement from FanDuel, quote, today's events deeply disturbing, should concern fans, athletes, and everyone who loves sports and values integrity and fair play. They also illustrate the stark contrast between legal and illegal betting markets. At FanDuel, we use advanced technology, real-time monitoring to identify suspicious activity and work closely with leagues, data monitoring groups, and law enforcement. We are unwavering in our commitment to rooting out abuses by those who seek to undermine fair competition and the games we love. And in that statement, it is essentially saying, like, look, the system worked to an extent here. For those who are pushing to get rid of all of this and saying, well, we got to get rid of it all, well, then that means the bad actors who are doing this then start to do this more likely offshore, where it's not as closely monitored. Like, we've had this conversation 1,000 times over and over again, and it just speaks to there's a reason why this was caught, because they were betting. Again, we don't know what books. FanDuel, of course, in the statement doesn't say that, hey, it took place here. Process of elimination, there's a pretty good shot that it was at one of the two, and if not more, of the national books that we know around the country. It is caught because it was into the system.
And we talked about this yesterday, too. It is, I think, frustrating in any walk of life when you have people that break the rules. And this is a very clear statement in the CBA that everyone in any professional league knows about. And I always think it's silly when people are like, oh man, they don't make it clear enough. They have signs everywhere. They go through it in the preseason. They talk about it multiple times throughout the season. It is something that's brought up a lot. And these people decided, despite all of those rules and regulations that are put in place, to go against it. And so now, is that going to ruin it for everybody else and the community at large? It's unfortunate to see how many ripple effect layers there are to this when all is said and done. But we've talked about it a lot. It's like it's a very limited amount of people that do these things. Jonte Porter is already Exhibit A of the lifetime ban. If that's not enough of a deterrent for you, I don't know what else is.
Yeah. And I think when you ask now some of these questions because I'm always curious about, so what's next? And I think that's part of it. We'll get to Billups in terms of what his role was in this poker scheme. But as far as sports gambling is concerned, you do ask the questions. So to invoke Adam Silver again one more time, we played the clip of him yesterday saying that we want to cut down of the ads. We want our partners to maybe restrict who they offer these prop bets on, and we want federal regulation. That is, to me, going to be point 1A of what's next. I would assume now we get a pretty strong push for some sort of federal regulation of sports betting. There are acts that have been thrown out there. For those who aren't, you can look up like the Safe Bet Act. The GRIT Act is a little bit more about money and tax as opposed to anything else. But the Safe Bet Act, it doesn't really check some of the boxes a ton that would, I think, go against like match fixing and things of that nature. It does kind of attack certain things when it comes to protecting against problem gambling. It does attack the ads in terms of how often they should be shared and when they could be played. But there's nothing in the Safe Bet Act that would really point toward combating things like this. And so I'm going to be curious, if you get a bigger push for federal regulation, what does that look like? What do these acts look like if they're going to start to try to federally regulate it across the board? That's going to be, to me, number one of, I would assume that is coming at some point, and I would assume the push is coming soon.
Okay. You mentioned the Billups layer of it, which we haven't dug into as much. Let's hear from U.S. Attorney Joseph Nocella again on the poker scheme element of this.
Beginning as early as 2019, the defendants in this case orchestrated a scheme to use wireless cheating technology to run rigged poker games across the United States, including in the Hamptons, Las Vegas, Miami, and Manhattan. The scheme targeted victims known as, quote, fish, who were often lured to participate in these rigged games by the chance to play alongside former professional athletes who were known as, quote, face cards. The so-called face cards included the defendant Chauncey Billups, who at the time of the scheme was a former NBA player and is currently the head coach of the Portland Trail Blazers, and also Damon Jones, a former NBA player and coach.
I think his wording is important there somewhat. Like, it sounds like that happened. The way he words it, it sounds like Billups did this before he became head coach of the Portland Trail Blazers. Obviously it's an illicit activity regardless. But I do think it's also important to really point out here, Billups, like the whole thing with Billups in this poker game has nothing to do with the sports gambling and the fixing. That's Rozier and that's Jones, who is the one tying factor to both of these things. And look, there is always a intermixing of like politics and sports and all these sort of things, and the tie into the NBA and bringing in Billups along with this. It is going to be curious to see when we find out more information, how did this come along? Yeah. Were they looking for the sports gambling stuff, found that Jones was involved, and then linked that to whatever's happening? Then Billups was in it as well. Did it start with the investigation into poker? They were asked about that. Again, what's his name? Nocella. Nocella was asked about it, refused to kind of answer. So you'll find out as we get more. And of course, if we go to trial and whatnot. So we still don't have that either. But that is also, I think, a really interesting wrinkle here of how did this all come about, and in what direction did we eventually get to where, on a day like today, we're tying both things in together in an announcement. And
it all comes out, by the way, the day after opening night in the NBA, where all eyeballs are on the sport. I don't know if the Trailblazers expected this when they inked Billups his new contract in April, so there's that layer of it.
I mean, you're right. I will say, like, I'm going to assume that they had this information on Monday or Tuesday. Right. So it's interesting that this is the time that this happens.
So a couple other parts of the Billups and Damon Jones part of this, because as I said, they're called face cards, right? Mm-hmm. They are the public figure, former professional athletes that are in on the scam to make the games appear legitimate. Text messages, according to the indictment between the defendants as they carried out their scheme, showed in April of 2019, Billups was winning so many improbable hands with the help of a rigged shuffling machine that overseers told him he needed to lose more on purpose to avoid being suspected of cheating. Following another rigged game in October of 2020, Billups was wired $50,000 for his participation. That, according to the memo again. And we mentioned the mafia type. It's organized crime that is arranging all of these games across the country. It's the Bonanno, Gambino, Lucchese, and Genovese crime families, 4 of the 5 main families, with custom shuffling machines, as I mentioned, that could read the order of what were barcoded decks, predict which player at the table had the best hand, replay that info at an offsite operator. There were hidden cameras built into the tables, light fixtures, contact lenses and glasses that could read pre-marked cards, and an x-ray table that could read cards face down on the table.
Good effort.
Sheesh.
A lot of effort.
So much going into it. But like I know for our purposes, the sports betting element is more important, but I was fascinated reading some of the details of the poker scheme.
It's a great story. And I'm going to be curious to see what the intricate connection between Jones and the rest of this is. And we should know, too, as we're talking about this, as it has been pointed out by others, and I think we brought this, I don't know, I sent it to you guys. I don't think we talked about it on the air, but beginning on November 1st, just 8 days from now, college athletes can officially wager on pro sports.
Yes.
So we have this inner working, and I think people are really conflating these things where, again, you have some bad actors, but the system is catching them. And a lot of people now think like there's going to be this thing like, folks, college athletes cannot bet on college games. They can only bet on pro games, the games that they are not involved in. These things are going to be caught and monitored, as we just found out here. And go ahead.
And sorry, I more so think that as this indictment comes down and as people have gotten in trouble and have the lifetime bans, that's the example now. You don't want to be that person. Yeah. I think that there was already a limited instance of this happening, but now with this being as publicized as it is, and these names now being dragged through the mud for what they've done, should be an example to current players and anybody that works within these organizations on what you cannot do.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll learn more about this. It is important to note that Nocella did say at the end, we are not done, which is a good way to wrap on the one name we didn't hear, as was pointed out by Gil Alexander on a numbers game. It was Malik Beasley. And we don't know if that's official. His agent did come out a month ago and say that he's been cleared. We haven't heard officially what that is. But if that is true, and he was not named here, and I would assume if he was part of it, he would have been named because he was part of the investigation already.
Awful. It would be awful.
Beasley got screwed over potentially through all of this, and we'll see if that is ultimately the case. And I would assume now he is potentially licking his chops for some sort of legal action because he gets screwed here.
Also, as a sidebar, I did see in Major League Baseball with the Emmanuel Clase and Luis Ortiz disciplinary paid leave situation, there is no update there, but Clase reportedly requested to pitch in the Venezuelan Winter League, to which the Guardians denied his request as they continue to sort through those details as well.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
And JVT with you back here on Money Moves. And remember, everybody, First Bet is the official racing partner of VSiN, and they're thrilled to bring us an exclusive offer to bet the Breeders' Cup World Championships. Use our promo code VSINBC, that's VSINBC, and you'll be entered to win an all-expenses-paid trip right out here to Vegas when you deposit and bet $200. Plus, when you deposit and bet just $100, you'll get a one-year VSiN Pro subscription for access to all of our exclusive content, picks, and more. Bet the Breeders' Cup with First Bet, the official racing partner of VSiN. Promo code VSINBC.
We should note, too, a couple of some house cleaning, if you will. First off, Tiago Splitter has been named the interim head coach of the Portland Trail Blazers. Chauncey Billups is obviously suspended, so there's that. And then, according to Mark Spears, the NBA Players Association has released a statement. I want to double check this. This is from like an hour ago. Quote, the integrity of the game is paramount to NBA players, but so is the presumption of innocence, and both are hindered when player popularity is misused to gain attention. We will ensure our members are protected and afforded their due process rights through this process.
Okay. Interesting.
I mean, that sounds like very much a shot at the administration and maybe some purposeful strategy behind the releasing of this information.
Yes.
So we'll see if the NBA PA sticks behind those words.
We do have 2 games in the NBA tonight, which I know JVT will get into a little bit later in preview. The Golden State Warriors hosting the Nuggets, the Pacers, and Thunders. Portland's next game is Friday against the aforementioned Golden State Warriors. But
basketball.
yeah, after what was a great night yesterday.
It was sick, dude. Did you see Wembanyama put Lively on skates and just hit that 3 over?
Well, and it was the block on one end of the court, and then that right after that was just sick.
Tell you what, man, I know we're supposed to do football. I'll just say really quickly, Spurs might have a little something. Like, Castle looked really impressive. Obviously, Wembanyama is Wembanyama. They were very good on defense yesterday. They might have like a little good crew going here, the San Antonio Spurs, and I am very excited to see how they operate. I know a lot of people were licking their chops last night after watching that and saying, "Oh, Wembanyama, maybe we got some MVP." I don't know if they're going to win that many games, but play-in mix, I think that they got something going. And by the way, very quietly, I know we were all watching Cooper Flagg, but the number 2 overall pick in Dylan Harper with 15 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists on 7 of 14 shooting looked pretty damn good in 23 minutes.
The Wembanyama odds, did you see how much they dropped for MVP, by the way?
What is it? When I was on with our buddies, the Golics, yesterday, they were like 10-1.
3-1.
Get out of here.
Third
Stop.
on the board.
Stop.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, your favorite, plus 220. Jokic, 3-1, as is Victor Wembanyama.
Did you watch?
I watched some, yeah.
Okay, all right.
I did. I went back and forth. You know, I had my own hockey bets that I had to sweat.
That's right.
But I encouraged
Did you watch my hit with the Golics? Who cares about basketball?
Oh, so get this. So
Stormy said she would watch my hit with the Golics on FanDuel TV.
I set an alarm on my phone because
like 10 minutes after you
I
left.
was driving home and I wanted to make sure that I dialed it up at the right time. I pull up my phone to open up YouTube TV. The FanDuel TV that is available within YouTube TV was like all horse racing.
Okay.
So it wasn't the actual live programming that you guys were on. So I was being asked you how'd it go. Was it good?
It went well. That's all I can say. It went well.
Any knowledge that you dropped that our audience deserves to hear?
I mean, Mike Golick Sr. seemed blown away by my information. So
let's get to a little bit of football here, though, because we do have Thursday night football on deck tonight. The Minnesota Vikings and Los Angeles Chargers going head to head, 3-point spread. There are still a couple 3.5s out there in favor of the Chargers. Your total sitting 44 and a half. Is that right? Yeah, still sitting 44 and a half, which is, it toggled between 43 and a half and 44 and a half for a bit, but it seems like we are standing pat here. From an injury standpoint, we are getting the Carson Wentz experience once again for Minnesota. As we told you yesterday, JJ McCarthy still not ready to go with that high ankle sprain he's been dealing with. They will also be without Andrew Van Ginkel and fullback CJ Ham. Questionable tags, though, for Aaron Jones, who's been working his way back from injured reserve, as well as running back Xavier Scott, left tackle Christian Darrisaw, and right tackle Brian O'Neill, all questionable as well. And thanks to Spot Odds, by the way, for that injury update from professional sports bettors like Billy Walters, world-class bookmakers like the ones right here at Circus Sports. Everyone who bets big or books big uses Spot Odds, spotodds.com. Use our code VSIN, VSIN, for a special discount. Use the tools the pros use. On the Charger side of things, Hassan Haskins is out, but Kamani Vidal will continue to be RB1. And then up front, all the questions about Joe Alt, he's technically listed as questionable, but the expectation is he's going to go, which I think is huge for that offensive line.
Yeah, I'm running with the assumption he's playing. I mean, for those who remember last week, his designation was doubtful. So this is an upgrade for him on the injury report. Every indication, as you're talking about throughout the week, was that he's going to play. He told the media that you can see me out there, so he's going to be out there.
And Trey Pipkins at right tackle is questionable as well and could get back into the fold again.
And that's going to be huge. I mean, we went through all the pressure numbers the other day for Justin Herbert. I mean, you're pressured on nearly 40% of your dropbacks against the Indianapolis Colts. As a quarterback, just in general on your dropbacks for the season, the pressure rate against you is above a third of your dropbacks. He's scrambling and running for his life on almost every snap. It's very C.J. Stroud-esque. So if you're going to get your bookend tackles back here, that to me is huge against Minnesota, because now you can keep him upright, you can stay on track, he can stay in the pocket, and he can operate against the defense that is going to put you in position. I mean, look, Minnesota, I don't think has been as statistically dominant as we hoped for them to be, as they were last year. Here's the thing. They're still 7th in defensive success rate. They're still 6th in EPA per play allowed. This is still a group that is among the best in the National Football League. And to be able to attack them, you've got to be able to stay upright and avoid some of this pressure that they're going to throw at you. This is a very good unit. You look at sack rate overall. It's the 3rd best team in the NFL. So if you get these two teams back, or these two tackles back, you're just going to be in such a better position to potentially get this done, because we know what the weakness is for Minnesota. Their offense stinks. It has not been good. Part of that has been the play of quarterbacks, the injuries as well, but there hasn't been a big, I would say, statistical difference between Carson Wentz and J.J. McCarthy at this point.
And yet I am here on a third day ahead of Thursday Night Football, wondering if I should bet on this offense for the Vikings team total because of the way that the Chargers defense has taken steps back the last 3 weeks. You look at some of the metrics for them, dead last over the last 3 weeks in yards per play allowed, and it's against the Commanders, Dolphins, and Colts. So say what you want. Obviously, the Indianapolis Colts are a different level offensively than the other two, but they got to 38 points on the Chargers in 3 quarters before taking their foot off the gas. All 3 teams scored 27 or more. Do you think I can get 21 out of Carson Wentz and this Minnesota Vikings offense?
Good luck. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't really like this Vikings.
Pass defense has gotten worse, not better. 6th worst in that time also.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand looking at the recent sample size for the Chargers and thinking that there is some sort of regression for a team that has, been a pretty good group. And part of that, too, it's not like you're playing the who's who of these powerhouses. I mean, yes, I think Daniels was back for the Washington game, and the Colts are among them. So I think you're taking it with a grain of salt. But the middle of that sandwich is the Dolphins, who, as we have kind of come to understand, have not been a great team, have been falling apart at the seams, and yet you allowed them to have one of their more successful days from an offensive standpoint. I can understand if you have some sort of belief that this regression from the Chargers is somewhat real, because the currently 24th ranked team by EPA standards on offense did have a successful day against you. I wouldn't say, I mean, it's just, I always say it, right? Like, I have these theories that I want to test it out. Are the Vikings the team you want to test that theory out with, though?
See, I do hate the you and the Matt Humans line of like, do you really want to ask a bad team to do good things for you? It is frustrating. It is hard. Yeah. But sometimes you're like, oh, but maybe it's a buy low. And so do you want to take advantage of the potential for opportunity as well is another question. Yeah, and look, you go back to that game too. It's not like the overall yards per play are ballooned from, to give you another point of evidence to your case to make you feel better about it. You know, usually like a yard per play over 3 weeks, maybe it's like 2 bad performances, and that's really kind of inflating that number. No, the Dolphins averaged 6.1 yards per play against them. Like, they were moving the ball. If you remember going back to that game, one of the things that I had thrown out there was like, look, at halftime, I think the Dolphins were averaging around like 7 yards per play. In-game wise, one would assume that the Dolphins can kind of pull away here because they've been playing that well in the first half offensively. Ultimately, they did not. 3 turnovers did them in. But to your point, if the Dolphins would turn the ball over 3 times and are -2 in the turnover column, they're averaging 6.1 yards per play. More often than not, you're winning that game. And we're talking about a losing streak for the Chargers heading into this with a defense that is heavily regressed. And we'll talk more Thursday Night Football a little bit later on. We're going to have Jeff Erickson of RotoWire join us like he does every Thursday to give some of his prop betting angles on the game, as well as looking ahead to the Sunday card of games, which we'll do here next because the contest card is out for Circa, where we do the 5 ATS picks every single week. And I know everybody's in their various contests, or you're just trying to make selections on the week 8 card. So we're going to kind of go through that a little bit more next segment. Before we do hit the break, a couple other quarterback updates you should know from an injury standpoint. Jaden Daniels has been officially ruled out for Monday Night Football against the Kansas City Chiefs. Ian Rappaport with that initial report earlier this morning. Lamar Jackson was back at practice yesterday for the first time since suffering his hamstring injury a few weeks ago. Still no indication as to whether or not he will go. Michael Penix Jr. limited at practice, but he was asked if he expects to play Sunday against the Dolphins, said, heck yeah. So that's at least a positive note there. Still TBD on Bryce Young, but Dave Canales did say he is getting evaluated and is day-to-day, but has been pushing to play. So a few key updates for you there as it pertains to the quarterback position before we get to week 8 ahead. We'll talk some more college football later on in the show as well, but for now, we're going to step aside. Still so much more to come and dive through as many of these NFL games as we can coming up next. So get ready. We have to do sports now? Sports, I know. I don't know. You kind of saw me. I like this kind of. My dad said we were doing a good Brokaw and Katie Couric. So. I think this stuff's actually super interesting. It is very interesting. Which it's a developing story. Everything that's going on with Rozier and Billups. So coming up in the next hour, we'll hit on some more. Anything new that has come out, we'll make sure that we keep you abreast of the situation. Abreast.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Back here in downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino. Money Moves on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, Sirius XM Channel 158, iHeartRadio, the VSiN Watch app, YouTube TV, any of our great affiliates, wherever you're watching or listening today. We appreciate it. Obviously, the big news of the day, all of the federal indictments that have come down and arrests made in a sports and gambling cases, that is, Terry Rozier and Chauncey Billups among those names. We will continue to have that conversation coming up at the top of the hour. But for now, more NFL talk because there are bets to be made and games still to be played despite all of the other news of the day, including here at Circa where we are broadcasting from. The Circa Million contest lines are officially out. So as we go through and are talking through some of our potential contest plays, I think it's a good conversation just in general for the Week 8 card as everybody is trying to place some early bets if they can.
Yes, and I'm grimacing because I was hoping we'd get 7 with Cincinnati and New York. I think we should use the Jets.
You did get 7 with the Carolina Panthers, though.
Yeah. I mean, it's 7.5 right now, though. So, no, a bunch of 7s are out there too. Okay, I prove it. So I'm
okay. Talk me through the Bengals.
We talked about this yesterday. This is easy peasy lemon squeezy, man. This is a crazy number.
It's a crazy number, but also
I'm so in on this.
It's sickening.
I'm going to have this. I'm just warning you right now.
This is
wait, are you here this weekend?
Am I here this week?
Are you making it back?
Yeah, I'll be here Sunday.
On Sunday. I'm spoiling it for you right now. Front and center, main screen, Jets Bengals. For our audience, we have our TVs in here. We decide every Sunday, it's a very big deal as to what games are going to go on what TVs. Generally, I've had not final say, but I put the list together. You don't really argue that much. I think you're just a docile person who doesn't really want confrontation in any way, shape, or form.
I mean, why do I care where a TV is at when I can see them all?
It matters. It matters. Okay. So I think I want Jets, Bengals front and center.
All right. It is weird that that's going to be the one that draws my attention the most.
That's right.
Whether I like it or not.
I mean, so it's a great game. And I would venture a guess, Derek Stevens and I like to bond over the ugly games, the morning window. I would venture a guess that we're probably going to have some pretty similar thoughts on the intrigue of Jets-Bengals.
That is a good note, though, by the way. Make sure you come join us on Sunday mornings. Obviously, Mitch and Paul host the Pro Football Tailgate Show. JVT and I host the Countdown to Kickoff program in that hour leading up to the 1 o'clock games. And then we stick with you for the entire 1 o'clock window. So as you can, chime in with us to preview the games and then hang out if you want to mute your TV and listen to some live betting options and have a little fun with how weird things get with us. It's a good time.
What do you think about your 49ers?
I like them in this spot.
Really? I didn't think you would.
I mean, I never like them.
Okay. Walk me through it.
But I dislike the Texans so much that I think that they actually could probably every week that I doubt the 49ers, they end up performing. So I feel like I just need to stop doubting them at this point. And regardless of quarterback, they've been able to do enough, regardless of who the pass catchers are. It's very reminiscent of what we've seen in a lot of cases from what, Baker Mayfield was doing for weeks on end with the limited wide receiver group that he had. I feel like they've been able to do it. Obviously, the concern is the defensive stars that continue to drop like flies here, but I don't think that the Houston Texans are a team offensively that can really take advantage of that as much as they might like.
Is it somewhat ironic, if you will? I don't know if I'm using the term correctly. Either way, as we're discussing this, the Circa contest lines, Texans -1.5. Circa just moved to 2 on the Houston Texans as we've been on the air. Not the biggest deal in the world, but just worth pointing out that it's heading in that direction. I
don't know. Maybe I feel like there's a little bit of an overreaction to the injuries, even though Kyle Shanahan finds a way to get them coached up.
I mean, look, you don't have to talk me. You don't have to twist my arm about going against this Texans team. Like there's this weird thought that this team is going to turn things around. Keep in mind too, we should note the injuries at the wide receiver position for Houston too. They are dealing with their own things here.
And isn't Nico Collins still in concussion protocol?
Correct.
As well? Yeah.
So like you look at this overall, I don't think that this is a run to lay a short number with Houston. And in fact, that's why I asked you about this, because I think there was an ugly case to be made to continue to go against this Houston team. Despite the fact that, well, like 1.5, whatever, you're just asking the 49ers essentially to win at that point, which I think they can do. How do we think? We have our number flipped here. The Panthers are not 7-point favorites against the Buffalo Bills. It is the other way around. What do we make of the Panthers as home dogs?
Okay, so I want to talk. We really need to talk through this.
Okay.
What do we do with Carolina now?
We talk about. We keep going.
We do we?
What is it?
Because
what is it? No, what is it? What do we say out in Carolina? I've never been in the state. What do we say?
Sharp teeth and claws?
No, we keep pounding. We keep pounding. That's what we do. We keep pounding. Catching 7.
We have repeatedly complained
Yep.
about the Buffalo Bills defense and the issues that they have. The Panthers have been plucky. They are, I mean, granted, it's not a good, it's not a good win that they just came out of, but it was on the road, and we've talked repeatedly about how the Carolina Panthers are a different team at home.
I'm gonna push back. They have not been plucky. You know who's 11th in success rate this year offensively? The Carolina Panthers. Do you know who is 6th in the National Football League in expected points added per rush this season? The Carolina Panthers. This is a team that offensively has been on the ground one of the best defenses in the National Football League. And you know who comes into this game 30th defending the run in terms of expected points added per rush? That would be the Buffalo Bills.
And you know what that tells me? Carolina, stop messing around with this Chuba Hubbard thing.
Yeah.
Let Rico Dowdle run. Also, I feel like you would probably be a little bit more confident if it was Andy Dalton that was starting at quarterback versus Bryce.
I don't know if I'm more confident. I just know that this is one of the rare quarterback situations where I think we can at least, I think everybody would agree, there is no drop-off. Usually if you go from backup to start, from starter to backup, you can guarantee that there is going to be a downgrade. I can safely say that there is absolutely not a single drop-off, and you can make the argument maybe it's an upgrade. But I think for sure, I know I'm going to get the same level of quarterback play at the very least from this backup situation. Is that fair?
Sure. For what it's worth as well, I do lean over on that 46.5 because I think when you have Josh Allen and James Cook, you're still going to find a way to score points. And the Carolina Panthers at home are a different animal offensively. On the road this season, they're averaging something like 15 points per game, and at home it's like 28 points per game.
Dude. So yes, and like they're better at home. Even more advanced metrics paint this picture for Buffalo, that being like one of the worst run defenses in the NFL. This is a well-schemed rushing attack. I think the Panthers would be pretty live here. So I think we have 3. Jets. I mean, here's the dangerous part. Here's the dangerous part is that a week after favorites just cleaned up, I think Jets, 49ers, and Panthers are the way to go.
God, what are we doing?
Come on now. It's the way to do it.
All right, what else stands out here?
Cleveland Browns.
No.
Okay. I can't do it.
What if if Lamar Jackson doesn't play, would you like the plus 6.5 on the Bears? Like that this is going to be a static line?
Unless you've got, I mean, yes, you could play the line. If indeed Lamar Jackson does not play, then you're going to be catching 6.5 at a number that closes.
Do you think
much
that would
lower.
be too popular?
That would probably be a very. I mean, we probably wouldn't know for sure until closer to game time. So maybe deadline passes. So we'll just be reading tea leaves. So I would probably stay away from that. Here's a favorite for you. You might not like it, though.
Packers?
Yeah.
I knew you were going to say it because it's only 3.
Yeah. Green Bay against Pittsburgh. The fraudulent Steelers.
It's the Aaron Rodgers revenge game, even though he says he has no ill will toward the Green Bay Packers. How believable was that? You have no ill will toward the Green Bay Packers?
I mean,
Please.
He clearly does. So what do you make of it? You're the Steelers gal. So if you don't feel comfortable going against your fraudulent Pittsburgh Steelers, I could totally understand.
Well, it's like, let's at least capitalize on it if it must happen, correct? Because I do, and I think that the Packers are a weird team, and every time I've believed in them, they've let me down to this point.
Yep.
But this is a prime opportunity, is it not?
I mean, look, you don't have to, again, you're not going to have.
All right, let's do it.
Don't threaten me with a good time going against the Steelers.
I'm fine with Packers on the road -3.
All right. Here's the really ugly one.
I don't like it, though, but
Okay.
I'm fine with it. I'll make it work.
I mean, the really ugly one, too.
Don't say the Browns again. Just get that off.
No. But this team, this will be the 3rd week that I've
Don't say
suggested.
the Titans. Don't say the Titans.
It's 14 points.
God. Against your beloved Colts, no less.
It's the full 14. This Colts team, their defense is not good. I mean, very quietly, a lot of us, and I'm included, we're very excited. But I will say, I don't get enough credit for how even-keeled I really am. Because I like to joke, like somebody was like, are you really going to tell me that you would make the Indianapolis Colts a favorite over the Kansas City Chiefs? Like, no, relax, okay? We're having some fun.
But you're not bitter.
And as I responded to Jeff Schwartz over the weekend when they were pounding the skulls in of the Los Angeles Chargers, realistically, this defense isn't good. And look, it was only 31-17, and the Chargers had the ball at one point. Like, they were on the verge of potentially making a one-score game. They are a challenged defensive group. I can understand. I'm just saying. For sure, don't get that bad boy up to 15.5. That's teaser territory. tease the Titans up to 21.5. Let's go.
Didn't they just allow Drake May to set a historic completion percentage?
They weren't catching 14 there.
They didn't cover the number that they got.
I was going to say, did they cover 14 in that game?
31-13. So
You know, speaking of 21 and a half, you know who covered 21 and a half? Clippers in game last night.
dude.
I was texting with our buddy Chris Massero, and he took him in game at 21 and a half.
I did not feel great about my futures ticket.
Well, you know what's tough
game.
is I've got over Clippers and under Jazz. I mean, that's a brutal result for you.
Yeah, that's a good reminder, though. We have a ton of sports that are going on right now, and with that, the Sports Equinox Special is here at VSiN. You sign up now, get full VSiN Pro access to everything we do through May 1st, just $120. That's less than $20 a month. You get all the daily best bets, the betting splits, the AI-driven prop projections, 24/7 video, everything. VSiN.com/subscribe.